Right guys, Xyphoe here, a rather tired Xyphoe actually, with another Amstrad CPC Longplay review. This time it's for hard driving. And when we do look at arcade conversions on the Amstrad, I always like to have a look at the arcade original, which we'll see here as a kind of comparison to see how it fares. Now, Hard Driving was released by Atari into the arcades in February 1989 and was one of the first 3D polygon games. First thing to mention here, just very quickly, for some reason I lost part of the right hand side of the footage here recording in MAME. I don't know why, so hence why the arcade fly is there on the right. We have two choices of tracks, the speed or stunt track, which you can decide to choose in game where it forks off here. So we're going to go for the stunt track here. So it was coded by Max Bahinsky, and it also had force feedback in the steering wheel and action replays, which we'll probably see shortly when we crash and burn. Development started in 1988, although it was beaten to the punch of being the first 3D polygonal racing game by Namco's Winning Run. However, it's often regarded as the first popular, true, in a looser sense, 3D polygon game. And apparently 3,318 units were sold according to Wikipedia. And we're going on the loop-de-loop here. And of course the stunt track was the most fun one to do. I think we're going to crash here, there we go. And then we get an action replay. Awesome. So that's the arcade original. Let's move on to the Amstrad version. Okay, this was released by Domark. God, not Domark again. In 1989. And when we boot it up, there is a menu system here, which allows us to choose which side of the road to drive on, and if we want to play the 128K or 64K version, plus controls. Now, important control there is the space key that centers the steering, as you see there. More on that later. And because we're English, we're going to drive on the left-hand side of the road. And there it goes, loading the 128K version. As far as I can tell, there's no difference between this and the 64K version, apart from we get some jingles of music on the title screen and when we complete the race. There you go, here's the jingle of music. Apparently it was done by Ben Daglish. And we get a nice little title screen here. Revolutionary driving simulation. How is a poor, humble 8-bit home computer going to cope with 3D polygonal graphics? I mean, the arcade original had loads of custom chips and ROMs shoved in it and a lot of power. It was a very expensive arcade machine. I believe at the time it cost around about $10,000 to buy, unless the internet lies to me. We've got the coders here. Yeah, but it's based on the Specky code by Mike Day. He hasn't done any of our Amstrad games, with additional stuff for the Amstrad by Fred Williams, who did Magic Land and Spellbound Dizzy for Big Red Software, and Codemasters, plus games like New York Warriors and Grell & Feller. But let's start this off. You want to listen to the music in full without me jabbering over it. You can see that hear that at the end of the video, and we're going to choose between automatic or stick clutch control, but always choose automatic. This game is a pain in the arse to control already as it is. So we turn the key to start, which is the 5 button, or I think like accelerate, and off we go. And here's the Amstrad's attempt at 3D polygonal-ish type graphics. Yeah, ouch. Right, we are going to go for the stunt track first, and if you manage to hit 120 miles an hour before the top and launch off, you won't crash and burn. little tip there, but you need to sort of wiggle around a little bit before you get there to line yourself up. And yeah, this is a pig to control, and I think we are moving at a fantastic roughly 5 frames per second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roughly that. I think when more stuff happens, the frame rate drops even further. But it's kind of strangely playable. Okay, so we're on the speed track here. Oh, and I stalled it, but managed to start it up before I landed. Speed track is not as fun, and we're seeing bits of the environment coming through underneath the bridge there or whatever. Yeah, so I would say it's a fairly valiant effort of 3D graphics on the move. In terms of full 3D, the only other real games on the Amstrad that used that were games like Driller, Castle Master and Total Eclipse, also from Domark software. But they were pretty static for the most part, and they kind of, I think, pretty much moved a bit slower than this, because you were walking around rather than actually driving at speed. And there is a fairly decent sense of speed, but obviously the frame rate is terrible. But that is to be expected on the Amstrad or other 8-bit home computers. And I think we have just, there we go, we have completed the speed track. And the reason I did that first rather than the stunt track is, if you do, hang on, before I go on to that, I'm just going to purposely crash here, because we want to move on to the championship. And there we go, we get action instant replays, which is actually very, very cool. And you can see your Dukes of Hazzard style stunts and stuff. What we're going to do here, guys, is we want to move on to the championship. We can only do it when we actually die in the game. So I'm going to put the game up to ridiculous fast speeds. Even that isn't particularly good. Just to skip through it. The reason we did the speed track first is that if we did the stunt track first, we move on to the championship, but we won't be able to do the speed track as a second. I want to show you both tracks. So we do the speed track first, we're going to kill ourselves, and then move on to the stunt track. But when we actually kill ourselves, we'll go on to championship mode, where we race the Photon Phantom car or something like that. It's a ghost car, and we're actually racing against them. Okay, so that's been speeded up, and we'll return to normal here. And we go on to the championship lap against our opponent, with a bit of jingle music, which is quite nice. So what else to mention quickly? This was released on the Amiga, Atari Lynx, Atari ST, Commodore 64, PC MS-DOS, Mega Drive and the ZX Spectrum, and there's also a prototype version of the game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was never released, but apparently you can download it and play it. As for the 8-bit versions, this plays pretty much identically to the ZX Spectrum one, given that it was also coded by Mike Day, who did the Specky version. I will say arguably the graphics are a little bit better. Certainly we've got a nicer heads-up display there with the RPM and miles per hour and fuel gauge and clutch and stuff. The Commodore 64 version was horrible, however. It didn't actually get even a full price release, only released on the Wheels of Fire compilation, and each track was loaded separately rather than being able to choose them in game. So possibly arguably the Amstrad version comes out on top slightly, with some slightly better presentation. Now we're being forced onto the stunt track here. On the championship lap, you can only go on the stunt track, and we can see the car we're chasing just ahead of us, and all the fun comes from the stunt lap. Now steering and control is a nightmare on this game. Not people trying this for the first time don't realise that there is a special key to press, the space bar, to centre the steering. Now the steering doesn't auto centre itself, which I don't know why they didn't do that, and force you to press a key to do it. So I remember back in the day putting my keyboard on the floor and using my foot on the space bar. But you will see me using the centre of the steering a lot to stay on the track. And here we are on the loop. Now you can see my steering by that small yellow line at the top of the heads-up display. It's in the middle right now, moving to the right, moving to the right, moving back to the middle. That's me hitting the space bar. And we launched ourselves there. You get road signs giving you advisory speed limits. Suggest you stick to them, or you can work out how to go a little bit faster to get over them quicker by taking risks. So we've done a cool jump, a loop-de-loop, a dip. Now we're on this bank here, this steep bank, and we're not far from completing the game, guys. What am I going to say about this game? Oh, I stalled it, and I've just got overtaken, but you can get some real speed up just here, so don't worry about it, and just make good use of that space bar to centre the steering, and you'll get used to the handling, but it's still a pain in the arse. I think this is a valid attempt. A proper 3D driving game on a humble 8-bit computer. The Amstrad CPC Z80 processor is probably better suited to all the maths crunching it needs to do. Most people would think this game is terrible, especially if you're not familiar with 8-bit computers. But for a first attempt, it's actually rather passable, and I have to judge it on the fact. Oh yeah, I've just completed the game there. Horrible noise, no music, and we're back to the title screen. I have to judge it on the fact of how I felt when I played this game as a kid. And I did invest a lot of hours in it, if I'm honest with you. I kind of wanted to get around the stunt track and beat it, and I spent a lot of time on it. So therefore it can't be that terrible. By today's standards it is, but by yesterday's standards maybe not so. So I would give this a commendable 7 out of 10, and that's bloody good for Domark. Anyway, there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. Oh yeah, and I promised not to jabber over the music at the end of the video, and I just did. Sorry, not much to listen to. Cheers, guys. Take care. Goodbye. Like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and I will see you again very soon. Cheers. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Xyphoe, out.